Okay, well I thought I'd do another quick video explaining a few more discoveries now that I've paid attention more after I fixed the broken screw on my suspension here. And I thought that I'd just give you a quick overview of the system, and you can see that this is actually a very solid unit, and it works with a very simple and strong bolt system that undoes and clamps this tight. Now I'll show it from the front, but one of the things that's actually really critical here is that this part here is exactly flush right up the top there against that part there. Now it turns out that something else was actually collapsing and had led to that bolt shearing, and that's interesting and it's worth taking note of for those people who are owners of these creatures. So let's go around and look at the front. Okay, so this is the system from the front, and you can see that this nut, for want of a better word, is a very simple mechanism to hold that on solidly. But you'll now notice that there's those washers in there, and they're actually really critical for holding the end of this into the right place. Let me just pull these bits off. Now you can see that these are basically kind of vulcanized fiber washers that are common in plumbing, in taps. And what you can't see easily here is that that's a machined surface, and so's that. And it's actually important that it holds very flat and tight. Now, machined surfaces being what they are, they're very, very low in tolerances. Now that's actually holding very nicely. But a little bit of vibration and it'll start to loosen off a little bit, and then you've got that kind of tiny amount of movement occurring there, which means also that these side bolts are now taking a load that they would not otherwise take. So what I did was I got a pack of these assorted washers. Let me just zoom out a bit here. Yeah, got them from a shop. Just trying to get a good angle on that. I'll try and photograph them upstairs, maybe where you can get a better look at them without so many reflections. But that was about $6. Now I ended up using two sizes. One was a little bit too big to fit neatly in the hole, but I'll just undo that and show you what I mean. And so to get it in there, I just cut a little notch out of the top of it where it's not actually touching anything anyway, and that forces it to hold in. Let me just zoom back in again and maybe rotate that around a bit. Yep. So now that fits in there, but you can see that if I hadn't have taken that cut out of the top, it wouldn't necessarily fit in there as well. So for that surface to push down on neatly, I used this one, which is the next size down, which actually does just fit in there quite neatly. And so now I can just drop it. Now I can just screw it on. And it's important that it's the vulcanized fiber type washer, because they don't compress. So then when you actually tighten that up, it actually stays tightened. And it now stays tight. Before I could only go for half a kilometre before it started loosening up. Now it's actually holding very well. So let's have a closer look at these fibres. I'm in the fortunate situation that I don't undo this very much. I tend to just leave it there because, quite frankly, it's just an unwieldy scooter to take with me in the car. So it tends to just do duty here at home, and my wide wheel gets used, you know, when I want to take it somewhere. But this did have, down in this area in here, it did have a kind of a black fibery sort of thing, which I noticed the very last remnants of it was still sitting in the top corners where you saw it was shiny, and that's basically failed. That's just worn away. And the wearing away of that has contributed to these side bolts now taking a lot more pressure than they were before. Just zoom out a bit. So these side bolts need to be working in like a triangulation. 1, 2, 3, that triangle holds it all steady. If this starts to fail and allows a little bit of up and down movement, because that's not holding tight, it's going to put extra force and extra shear cutting through, not tensile. It's not pulling on the edge here and pulling it out. People always think in terms of tensile strength, tension strength on a bolt, and that's an important aspect of a bolt. But in this roll, it's not tensile strength that matters, because it's not under tension, it's under shear as that pushes down. So yeah, that's actually solved the problem on that in a much more permanent way. So let's go and have a look at these washers. Okay, well, this is the pack of washers that I bought, and you can see that basically I just slide that bit off, and it's quite a good little set of packaging, really, considering all of the things. It shows all the sizes on the back, and you can see that they're actually very, very thin and very hard. So they're kind of almost looking like cardboard. So let's just zoom in a bit more, and you can see that that's the size of the thickness of the washer. So I just cut a gap in the larger one and then slid it in. So that packet of washers cost $7 Australian, so basically fuck all. So even if I do need to lose a few or whatever, or get a few more or whatever, it doesn't really matter. By the way, the mosquitoes are eating me here at the moment, so it's driving me crazy. But yeah, so that now has made the front end very, very solid. I used a firm amount of Permatex blue on the product. When I put the bolts in, made sure that the bolts were cleaned out the threads of where I put the bolts, well, screws into. I keep calling them bolts because they look like bolts, but anyway, that's my problem. So there you go. That's a good solution to the problem. I'll report if it has any other issues. But so far, with about 2,000 kilometers on it, that's the only thing that's really happened to my MX60. And I suspect that that front's collapsed. That front original washering system has collapsed due to a combination of bad design, maybe, and a lot of movement and stress put on it over time. For $7 for a packet of them, I think I'm right for a while.